Welcome to Disruption Blueprint with Shannon Spotswood from RFG Advisory. In this podcast, we help advisors grow their net worth, build their businesses, and maximize their independence. We've built an award-winning platform with innovative technology, comprehensive service, and a team of individuals who are experts in their field to serve advisors. Join us for this journey where we explore everything that has to do with running an independent advisor practice as we bring together successful advisors, industry experts, and innovative minds who are on the bleeding edge to challenge the status quo, foster new ideas, and create a path for advisors to unleash their growth potential. Now, on to the show.
Kevin, welcome to Disruption Blueprint. It only took me 2 years to get you in the studio.
Hard to find.
I'm so psyched you're here. You know, one of our favorite things is get comfortable being uncomfortable and you'll never be uncomfortable again. And I have been so fired up to watch you wade into the marketing world, the podcasting world, because it's not something that you've traditionally done.
It is actually something I have actively avoided. It's not traditionally done.
So this is a big
we're trying.
coup.
I'm trying to turn the corner on this and do something a little different.
Well, and I've been really looking forward. You and I have built a long relationship over a lot of years, and I really respect your opinion and your insight. And one of the things that I want to dig into that I think you have a unique just point of view on is the journey of independence. You've really become an evangelist for advisors to be independent. And so much of it is because of the journey that you've experienced in your career. So tee us up, walk us through how you found yourself here.
So this goes way back, but
we got time.
Right out of college, I chose to go work for a small firm in Atlanta. At the time, some people may remember, it may not. It was Oldie Discount Stockbrokers at the time. And I was there for about 7 years in Atlanta. Enjoyed it, loved the firm. And then one day, they got a knock on the door, and H&R Block wanted to cross-sell their tax clients, but they needed a group of advisors to go do that. And so they bought Oldie at that point in time. So through a variety of roles at H&R Block and Oldie, that kind of just continued down. I got back to Birmingham, which is kind of a hometown, not perfectly a hometown, but kind of a hometown. And then H&R Block Financial Advisors got acquired again.
Mm-hmm.
So
many advisors can relate to that. It's like acquisition 1, acquisition 2.
Yes. And so H&R Block Financial Advisors got bought out by Ameriprise, and everything's going along pretty good for the first 2 to 3 years at Ameriprise. And then I just wasn't as happy, wasn't as fulfilled with the kind of the direction that the company was wanting everyone to go at that time. And I really began to just kind of consider all of my options. I knew I wanted to stay in Birmingham. I knew there were a ton of different firms to look at, even locally. So I kind of started that process of sifting through what do I want and where do I want to be. So talked to, Merrill, Smith Barney. At the time, there was Raymond James was still, I think they're still around, Morgan Keegan. And then a buddy of mine who happened to be the lead recruiter for our area with LPL said, hey, you need to at least go talk to RFG, talk to Bobby. And I kind of pushed that off for a long time as I was exploring all these other options, including some other independent options. And finally, he just said, look, you're going to go meet with him. Here's the day that you're going to go. Just go talk to him. And so a little reluctantly I did, but when I came in and met with Bobby, very open, honest, straightforward, my expectations of a place that I would be interested in working were aligning pretty quickly with what he was telling me was what RFG was built on. And so when I left that meeting, I had a completely different perspective after we went through, not only what does that every day look like, transition assistance, all of those types of things, what was my day-to-day running my business going to look like? How much support would I have? So all of those things kind of came together and made it feel truly like kind of the traditional broker-dealer that I had been with for a long time, but with the ability to do things exactly how I wanted them done.
Yep.
So that was kind of a neat thing.
It's like once you see independence, you can't unsee it.
I think very much so. And the more, I kind of dug into the numbers, I had been acquired twice, and here I am 17, 18 years into my career, and I realized that the only place that I had ever chosen to work was the one when I got out of college, right? But here I am at this place that I don't really like that much, that had changed dramatically from the time that we had been acquired. And it wasn't where I wanted to be for another 15 years,
right,
20 years, or however long I stayed. So it was kind of refreshing to be able to know that there was something on the other side that matched up with kind of how I perceived I wanted my business to look like going forward.
Right. And I want to dig into that about what your business looks like, because I think it's a really you're doing things your way, which is part of what makes you successful and part of why you're enjoying the business. But before we get to that, you titled your double top secret spreadsheet Project Delta.
I did.
As you were looking at the numbers, because, one of the most challenging things that advisors go through, and it's really difficult, and I see the inside of these spreadsheets all the time, is the apples to apples comparison of how do I evaluate the forgivable loan versus what independence looks like. Because it's independence, there are greater number of question marks around what am I going to pay my assistant? How much time do I need? What am I going to do about office space? What about healthcare? Like there's all these other things that are on the table because you ultimately have control over running your business. But I love that you called this Project Delta. And what I loved about that is that you focused in that spreadsheet on the break-even analysis. So go through that, because I really, we're all numbers people. That's part of why we're in this business. But yet when the numbers get super personal, it's almost like the hardest math an advisor's ever done.
Correct. Oh, and I worked through it 1,000 times, of course. The numbers for me, there was a couple of different approaches that I took. One of them was, hey, what if I go to a traditional broker dealer again, a Merrill, a Morgan Stanley, whatever? What does that number look like? And the thing that I always came back to was the forgivable note.
Yep.
Okay. The forgivable note. The first day is always the greatest day, as we've talked about, when the money hits the bank account. But then it's the 5 to 10 year consistent monthly drag on all those earnings through paying back part of that forgivable loan, the taxes that they hold back on it. So the reality is that money gets to you, and yes, you are free to do whatever you want to with it, but there is this consistent drag over whatever the duration of the remaining note is. Mm-hmm. I had been through 2 of those via retention packages. Mm-hmm. And it was fun to get the check, but then every month when they continue to hit your paycheck, it's like, all right, well, at least I have that money. It's less exciting. It's not as rewarding anymore, right, as day one. So I really wasn't looking to go through and get this giant payday again, mm-hmm. right, through these retention packages or through a bonus for transition. So I looked at it in a different way, and that was, well, what if I don't take anything up front? What is my break even going to be from a revenue standpoint?
Against that forgivable loan?
Not even against the forgivable loan. If I just move, in other words, if I just move, what percentage of my asset, let me rephrase, what percentage of my assets do I have to move to be where I am today, but independent?
Yep.
Okay. And so I went through and I figured out that after all of the deductions that I have and paying sales assistants and licensing and New York Stock Exchange fees, all the fees and everything wrapped in, I figured out that I could be break even on an income annual basis if I brought 40% of my revenue.
40%.
40%.
Yep.
And when I looked at that, and again, I had never moved. I had been
Right.
acquired. So there's anxiety there. And that's why I'm
Yep.
digging into it, because I didn't want to do this and have it blow up.
Right.
Right.
You couldn't
Because
afford to.
I couldn't afford to.
You have two
Correct.
young children, and
Correct.
even though your wife is successful and works still,
That's right.
you couldn't afford to. You
Right.
couldn't afford to make the mistake.
So as I look through, I'm like 40%, I got that. Like
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. So if the worst case scenario is that I move and I lose 60% of my revenue, I'm no worse than I was yesterday
Right.
at a place that I'm less happy being.
Right.
Right. So
Can we
the
turn
end
that into
result-
like an XY axis?
Right. And so the end result of that, and again, I'd never transitioned before, and inevitably you lose a little, but I ended up transitioning 85 to 87% of my revenue came with me. And I had far beyond what I expected.
Well, and the footnote to that story is my guess is the part that didn't transition was probably locked up in a proprietary product that couldn't transition.
There could have been some of that. There could have been some of that. Yeah. So when I got to the 40% number, I was at peace with that. Right. I can make that happen. I know that I can make that happen. And I knew that I would make more than that happen.
Yeah.
But just knowing what the break even was at 40% of revenue to come over seemed like a layup.
And it's funny because the investment banker in me, when I look at these deals, when you and I were, talking about Project Delta, it was a real light bulb moment about the simplicity of that analysis of what percentage, because we see it time and time again where average advisors transitioning are bringing over 90+% of their assets. I mean,
Sure.
They're clocking them in close to, 95, 98%, 99%. More often than not, it's like, oh, I really was hoping those assets weren't going to come with me.
Right.
And they're still showing up. But it's, it's really given, I think, a finer point to how we have this tendency to overcomplicate things when fear's involved.
Yes.
And when you really strip this down to the baseline of what is my break-even point based on my business today? And you do the math and you realize, because that's about what it is. It's about you need around 40 to 50% of assets to transition and your break-even being independent. And that's
right.
That's layering in all of your expenses for being independent.
Absolutely.
It's break-even, take home.
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. So the other kind of aspect of thinking about that with the transition loan is that now I wasn't burdened by that transition loan, and I didn't have to worry. The break-even numbers and not getting anything and getting a meaningfully higher payout versus taking a huge upfront payment and getting your 45 or 50%. However, the break-even time frame on that is really only about 4.5 to 5 years, and that's assuming no growth.
Right.
If you grow once you move your business because now you're free to do it, the number of years to break even drops dramatically.
Yeah.
So
It's like a dual analysis, break even as is, moving the business, and break even versus the forgivable loan. How
That's
many
right.
years?
That's right.
Well, and where I'm like, let me jump on the soapbox. What I love, especially, you're young in the business, you're building this practice, is that you have an appreciating asset on your family's personal balance sheet that is meaningful.
Sure. I mean, that's when you leave a traditional style broker-dealer wirehouse, it's not yours.
Right.
It's not, no matter how much you think it is, it's not yours. Yes, there are some sunset provisions and so forth, but the company that you're with is not going to give you the multiples that are available in the independent market. If somebody wants to come buy my book right now, and whatever the prevailing rate is, you're just not going to find that anywhere else. And it might just be a 1-year sunset. It might be a 6-month sunset. You can customize your departure however you want to whether it be over a year, 5 years, whatever it may be. So that's a lot more flexibility. And yes, I'll eventually be able to get that value that I've worked so hard from back out of that as legacy to kids or whatever.
Yeah.
However you choose to view it.
What do you think it was? Because once you made the move, you were a bit of a trendsetter. I read in I read in the Wall Street Journal this past weekend that there is a trend about men rolling up their pants and wearing cropped pants. So you're not quite that much of a trendsetter. Maybe we'll shout out to Gibson and his rolled up pants. But you set a trend in that you made the move and several advisors followed you. Why do you think that is?
Because I was the guinea pig to some degree. There were a lot of people where I was at the time who were considering options. And when I had figured out that I was going to do this, I had spoken confidentially with a number of them, and they were all very interested. They had come over and met with Bobby, kind of came away with the same impressions and ideas that I had from it, and were on board with considering it. But I was first.
Yeah,
to my knowledge, I was first, and I told Bobby, I said, let's make this go really well because there's more where I came from. And I think now, I don't know, I think I brought over 5 or 6 guys at some point, 5 or 6 guys. Yeah. So, and everybody is happy and happy that they made the change. And it took a couple of years.
And that's like, oh,
I know.
My heart's
right?
so happy.
When you figure out, and for me, it was here, but when you figure out where you're going to go and where you're going to be an independent advisor, you're going to be happy once you have gone through the very brief transition period because of the increased compensation, the increased support, the technology backup that I can't deal with. I don't want to do my own taxes and compliance. And I actually... and I tell people this all the time, it kind of goes back to where I was at the old place. But so let's say I was at a 50% payout where I had been before. As I looked through at the end of the year, I wondered what value I got for my 50% that they kept.
Right.
And I couldn't come up with an amount of services or benefits large enough to meet that number.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy to pay RFG the percentage that I pay RFG every single month to take care of all of the things that I don't want to do on a regular basis, and to keep me out of trouble compliance wise for things that I might overlook or miss, to process payroll for sales assistants, to let them be a part of 401k and the benefits package. I mean, all those things are value to me that I am happy to pay for.
Yeah.
Out of the revenue.
Which is a perfect tee up for my next question, because you've really been a little bit of a ninja master on work-life balance. And, from the minute I met you, and our kids are close in age, teenagery.
Yes.
We're very teenagery in the trench. You've had a very, I think, clear-eyed view of the hierarchy of need and recognizing the fleeting moment of time and that your kids are only going to be this young for a short period of time. And you've accomplished what I think so many advisors seek, which is you're going to walk the walk on what is the highest and greatest use of my time, while also building your practice and seeing year over year growth, like even stripping out a positive market, positive market environment, you're organically growing your practice. Bobby always likes to say there's no such thing as work-life balance. There's just life, which I think the second you think, oh, I'm seeking this balance, you're going to be so disappointed. How have you done that? And how have you really structured your time that you're walking out the door and you're picking up the kids and you're at the sports field, you're really, really involved very intentionally with your children's lives?
The biggest thing is making the conscious decision that is what you want and that's what you're going to do, period. I used to coach baseball. I would pick him up from school, take him home, get him changed. We'd go to baseball till 7. Now it's, until he started driving not long ago, it was cross country, and now it's cheerleading for my daughter. My son is a junior now, and he's almost halfway through his junior year as we do this. I got a year and a half left with him in the house, and then he is gone. I want to be a part of every single thing that he'll allow me to be a part of until that time ends. And likewise with my daughter, cheerleading competitions. I don't know anything about cheerleading. I didn't know anything about cross country and running either when my son started. But just being a part of being a part of what they're interested in, and being there for whatever they need at any time, that's a priority. We like to spend time at the lake. I've gotten into a habit on Thursday afternoons in the summertime to work maybe Thursday afternoons down there, and definitely work Friday mornings. But then I'm there for 3.5 day weekends as often as I can in the summertime, and the family all comes down and we have a great weekend. So I think it's the conscious decision to commit to being there and realizing that, yes, we owe a duty and we have an obligation to our clients to be there for them and to provide things, but they also understand that we have families that we want to be a part of and watch them do all the things that they want to do, just like they do. Mm-hmm. And leaving at 3:30 in the afternoon most days is not the end of the world. It can be managed, or if they really need to call me in the afternoon, they can call me and let me know whatever it is. And I don't mind doing that because they also understand that I value my time, and I've worked with many of them for so long, they kind of know what my hours are just organically. But it's the conscious decision to do it. I mean, I'm not going to miss, any more cross country or track meets or cheerleading sessions because I'm working.
Right.
Like, that's just, there might be a rare meeting out of town that something comes up, but I'm just not going to do it.
So why don't more advisors walk the path that you're walking?
I really don't know, unless they feel some kind of corporate loyalty at some point where they feel like they have to be there. I think COVID's broken a bunch of this down, though, in the last couple of years. I don't think it's as bad as it was. I think more people are starting to take time out of the office. I think that they are working, remotely from home and a little more flexible in that. I think it's actually getting a little bit better. But traditionally, certainly, you had to be in the office until 4:00 when the bell rang, and be there at 8:30 because somebody might need to run a trade. And those days are
gone.
Certainly in my world, they are gone.
Yeah.
With so much going to portfolio management and less transactional type business that's evolved over the last 10 years, even longer than that, really. I don't think the importance of being there, 8:30 to 3:00 every day is what it was, but it's still ingrained in a ton of people's heads.
Yeah.
And there's still plenty of guys that wear ties to work every day, and I can't imagine doing that.
We would be like, are you going on a job interview?
Right. What's wrong? You feeling okay? But I just can't imagine living with constraints like that and the continuous, meetings about meetings.
It's one of the best pieces of advice on this that I absolutely love is that whole concept of, I'm too busy. I'm too, I can't make it. I'm too busy. You replace that with it's not important to me. And the second you have to, I can't do that. I'm too busy. I'm too stressed. I'm blah, 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 blah with it's not important to me. It is like someone slapping you across the face because you're like, I'm too busy. It's not important to me to be present for my daughter's cheerleading competition.
Right. It hurts.
Like that.
Right.
That's going to sting.
Wakes you up.
That's going to wake you up. It's part of, I love our industry. I think financial advisors play this incredibly important role in people's lives. And I think it's one of the most attractive career paths for young people to consider. It's challenging to get into the industry, and we can, maybe a topic for another day. But I do believe that as people are assessing how do I weave together a very fulfilling career with this opportunity to be present for the people who matter the most to me, it's one of the best places you can sit.
I've told people repeatedly, if I had to sit in a bank from 8 to 5 for 3 times the money
Right.
that I make now,
Forget
I
it.
wouldn't do it.
No way.
Or if anything that restrains me to where I have to be somewhere
Yep.
from 8 to 5 every single day, you can forget about it.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to do it. It's not worth it
Right.
anymore. I mean, it's just not worth it. The flexibility of being, which kind of brings up something I know we were going to talk about earlier, but or later on, but the flexibility to be a mile and a half from the schools, both
Yeah.
of them, and to just have access to run down there and pick up or see them compete or watch a football game or whatever it may be, and the same distance from the house.
Yeah. It changes your life.
It has.
It changes your life. Okay,
It
so let's
has.
talk about it. You and a few other advisors bought your own building, RFG Annex, as I like to call it. And I think that that's a dream that a lot of advisors really have, is like, I want, there is something around like, I want to own the brick and mortar that is surrounding me, not only from a financial balance sheet perspective in terms of investing in an asset as opposed to paying rent. How did you go about doing that, and would you do it again?
I would 100% do it again. The process really took us about a year and a half. We were not in a hurry to move into a new building. And a lot of the things that we had looked at were more than we just really wanted to bite off, more from a square footage standpoint than a pricing standpoint, because the market was good, interest rates are cheap. But we finally found a place that fit kind of the right size and a really good location that's close to lots of restaurants and little neighborhoods and so forth. So it's been great. Clients that are in that area love to come by all the time, right? I had somebody pop in this morning, right? Katie wasn't there. The door was locked. I had to scramble to go unlock the door for her, right? So little things like that. But to be able to invest in an asset that I'm just paying for over time, and then when I'm done, either own the building and just collect rent during retirement, or sell the building if there's any appreciation. We did not go into it with that as a main agenda item. But it's been great to be able to just kind of pay ourselves back and get the depreciation and so forth off of it. And I think if you go in and you look at the right size place for the right number of people that are going to be there for a while, I think it's a perfect situation.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. And especially when you get to select your own location close to your clients and other things that you enjoy doing.
I hope that this is one of the trends that we see in the next couple of years. You guys have done this. Our advisors down in Shreveport have bought and renovated an old house, the Pink House. The Billings group up in Kansas are looking at buying and renovating an old building on Main Street. Cincinnati, Steve Spaeth up in Cincinnati at River Oak is looking to do it. This whole idea of like changing the paradigm of where an advisor works weaves into the client experience. So from my perspective, it's a little bit like the oldest play in the book. Doctors have always done this. They all own their businesses. Like, find me a doctor. Well, now with the physician roll-ups is a little bit different. But if you roll back the clock, certainly my father was an orthodontist. He owned all his real estate. That was a part of building a successful business. But I love it when it takes it one step further, and it's not just, it becomes like my clients are popping in. Billy
Right.
Haskins is building a new office in Enterprise. That's
right.
going to be really cool.
Good.
And they're all being designed around this. Like, it should feel comfortable. It should be inviting. You should want to come and hang out
Right.
because we're, stewards of these
Right.
clients' life. It's so much more than managing their assets. It's being their life coach.
It is. And it is nice when they just pop by. We like being a part of that community.
Yeah.
This building, RFG Corporate, is in one section of town in Vestavia, which is fantastic. We're kind of a little further south in the Inverness area. And that's where I have a lot of clients down that way.
Yep.
And so it is nice to be able to say, oh, I'm right there in Inverness, right off
Come
of
on over.
Hollydale. Drop by.
Yeah.
Just come on by. I'll send you the address.
Yeah.
And then having them do it.
Right.
I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, and really more than anything, it's just because now I feel like I have my business exactly in the center of the people that I serve.
Yeah.
Not rather than where I was, but it's a lot closer than where I was.
Yep.
Right. So
Yep.
it's been excellent.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to talk about succession planning. It's on like everybody's mind, especially in light of the more recent volatility. We've been seeing like record number of deals that get reported. There's obviously a lot of kind of internal succession that's probably not hitting those deal tables. You're of the age, a natural acquirer of assets. But to date, it is the numbers really haven't budged. In the past 7 years, we've been pinned at 15% of advisors have a succession plan. The industry is aging. Show me a study, it's somewhere between 60 and 65 years is the average age of financial advisor, which means we have some that are older
Right.
than 60.
Some we've talked to.
Exactly. So what do you think what's going to have to happen for these assets to start transitioning in earnest to the next gen advisors? And what are the pitfalls of really looking at succession as the driver of your business growth?
Well, I think everybody has the glory idea of just acquiring everything they can get their hands on, right? And just their revenue goes through
Like the
the roof.
Gordon Gekko model.
It is. I want it all. The reality is that the 65-year-old guy for the last 6 or 7 years has just sat back and made 12% increases every year or more. And it's been insanely easy in those cases to just, why give up the paycheck? Like, if I sell it, I might get 2 or 3 times, but I could sit here for 5 more years and then get 2 or 3 times after making 5 years of income. The thing that I think is going to happen, unfortunately, and this goes back to a saying that I learned early in the business, was that financial advisors die at their desk. And I think there's a couple of sides to that. And I don't believe it all the time, but I think there is a lot of truth in it, is that they build such good relationships over so many years with their clients who are close family friends or get that way, that they don't want to relinquish those families over to people who may not care as much as they do.
Mm-hmm.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. The problem with that is you don't know when you're going to go, and you're going to leave them in that situation at some point anyway. So yes, I think older advisors need to put some type of a plan in place, but to say that there's going to be this groundswell from 15% that have a plan to 80% that have a plan, that's never going to happen.
Ain't going to happen.
It's never going to happen. But reaching out to people in the area to let them know that you're looking, preferably if they're already independent advisors, and just starting to build those relationships. And that way, I mean, you never know. They could have a health scare or something could change dramatically. They may want to move to the beach and they're just, for whatever reason, maybe we have a bear market for 4 years and they're just done. Things will change at some point in time, and you want to be the person that they remember having those conversations with.
Yeah.
But I don't, I don't know that there's going to be this massive
Massive way.
change.
I
mean,
I agree.
can we get it to 30% with a succession plan? Maybe. Right. I mean,
That
I think
up like
that's
maybe
pushing it.
against a bear market.
Right. Right.
Don't know if we really want to wish for that.
No, we don't. We're done with this one, I think.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. It's over.
Yeah.
Part of your succession plan, hopefully, the stars align, involves your son. So I want to talk a little bit about Webb and PRs. He has, after a very successful baseball career, as you mentioned, pivoted to becoming very passionate about cross-country running and has his eye set on possibly competing at a D1 school, or at least at the collegiate level. And he looks so cute in his tie as he came to intern for you for a bit.
Yeah.
I feel like having known you for the last 7 years, he has played an outside role in shaping who you are. And in particular, the last 18 or so months, you've really focused on your health and getting fit and being really, being not only there for him emotionally and mentally, but being there for him physically. How does he inspire you?
The thing that impresses me the most about him is the dedication to do it on his own. Really two things: the dedication to do it on his own and a tremendous work ethic. I mean, 6 a.m. during the summer, 5 days a week, running 6 to 14 miles, then going to a construction job for the rest of the day, as he did last summer. And he does it because he loves it, but he also wants to be great. And just seeing that every single day. I don't even think I told you this earlier when we were talking about it, but he ran a race that he deemed subpar a couple of weeks ago. And the next morning when I got up and came out, his car was out of the driveway, and I looked to see where he was, and he was back at the same place that he had run the night before, running the race again because he was disappointed with how he performed and he wanted to go back. So that's kind of
Wow.
this relentlessness and this just dedication that he shows. I mean, and that's a little bit of kind of what went into the commercial that I did this year, as you talked about my new
breaking out into the marketing.
But it also kind of goes back to the trip that we had this summer in preparation for his season. But there's been this kind of underlying theme for the majority of this year called relentless forward progress. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of something that I have thought back on many, many times. The Lake Martin 27-mile run, bad knee halfway through. What do you think about just relentless forward progress? Just move.
Yeah. Yeah.
Him focusing on his running and trying to get better, not feeling great every day, but working his butt off and running so many miles, relentless forward progress. Yeah. Right. And it even kind of goes into our relationship with our clients. Yes, we have not been forward progress for the past year, dollar-wise or percentage return-wise, but you can still apply that relentless forward progress theme to, are we still taking care of long-term care needs? Mm-hmm. Are we still making progress in getting their estate plan done? Are we still making progress in making sure that we're pulling money out of their tax-deferred accounts efficiently? All of those things are progress. Yep. Right. And we just have to continue to do those things.
Yep. I love that. That's going to be the title of your podcast. Relentless forward progress.
Let's not get carried away about me and a series of podcasts. So, but yeah, that's what I most admire about him.
What's his best PR?
Mile is 4:38 and 5K was last weekend 16:16.
Wow.
So,
and his goal is sub.
For his junior year, he'd like to go into the 15s.
Yeah.
Any number in the 15s would be good. And mile goal this year is probably 4:20, if I had to guess.
Good night. Man, that's smoking fast.
Got to get both of them a little bit lower. A little bit lower. And then he'll have he might have his choice. So,
that is awesome. It's been exciting. Great having you.
Well, thank you for having me.
It was really awesome. Yep. Loved it.
Great.
Thank you for listening to the Disruption Blueprint podcast. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at www.rfgadvisory.com or schedule a call on our advisor resources page. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Content here is for illustrative purposes and general information only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security or engage in any specific trading strategy. Information here may be provided in part by third-party sources. These sources are generally deemed to be reliable. However, neither our guest nor RFG Advisory guarantee the accuracy of third-party sources. The views expressed here are those of our guest. They do not necessarily represent those of RFG Advisory, its employees, or its clients. This commentary should not be regarded as a description of advisory services provided by RFG Advisory or performance returns of any client. The views reflected in the commentary are subject to change at any time without notice. Securities offered by registered representatives of Private Client Services, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered by investment advisory representatives of RFG Advisory, a registered investment advisor. Private Client Services and RFG Advisory are unaffiliated entities. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where RFG Advisory and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advisory services may be rendered by RFG Advisory unless a client agreement is in place. RFG Advisory is an SEC-registered investment advisor. SEC registration does not constitute an endorsement of RFG by the Commission, nor does it indicate that RFG or any associated investment advisory representative has attained a particular level of skill or ability.